YouTube thumbnail. Great. Welcome. What?
I want to do the title if you're going to do this.
Yeah.
Part 3 of Reversal of Fortunes. Part 3 of 12. We're doing a series right now on the epic, destructive, the reversal of our fortunes that propped you up and put me down in my place.
I became his manager. He became the direct report. I became his commanding officer.
Exactly. That was the reversal of our fortunes.
Did we want to reverse those
I got
fortunes? We sure did.
I got my rank cut thrown away in the trash can, and I started over with started from the bottom once again. And she, was elevated to
or lowered in our terminology,
right?
Because we're an inverted pyramid.
And was it the best thing that ever happened to me?
Certainly.
Well, let's see what happens. Let's see. I don't think I'm gonna say that on episode 3. She might think so. Was it the best thing that ever happened to me?
I think you certainly improved.
Let's see what happens. It would be a bad thing if I only have gotten worse in the last 2 years. That would be bad. So I hope that it was a good thing. But let's see what happens by episode 12. Let's see.
What do you mean, let's see what happens by episode 12? The whole thing happened. We're here.
It happened.
It happened.
I don't know, but I want to save my prognosis for the end.
Oh, you're like holding back your teasering. I see. Okay, so yeah, part 2 was pretty bare bones. Overview of our story. We divided into 3 parts, and we focused more so, instead of the nitty-gritty details, like the larger pattern that went along with our reversal of fortunes, which was the establishment and kind of revealing of our toxic codependent relationship with an enabler and a narcissist. And yeah, like it was us beginning to be an ATM unit, that's the name of our unit, in a personal romantic relationship while on the road in year 20 and year 9, which is fall 2020 to winter 2021.
They don't call it year 20 out in the Pain Matrix. They call it 2020.
Whatever. And then when the second part of the timeline is us meeting back up with Wiko in year 9 and year 10 new time, which is spring, summer 2021. And then
are you keeping up with the times?
It's a lot of times, a lot of dates being thrown out here. New time, old time.
Someone's taking notes out there, being like, "Oh,
I
gotta make sure I get this timeline right." They're throwing out a lot of years now.
And then
are they talking about part 1, 2, or 3 of their relationship right now? Let me check
and
my color grid.
Why is it indiscriminately divided into 3 parts? We only do things in 4s here. Oops. My bad.
That's why these are going poorly.
Whoa. These are 12-part series, so maybe we'll, salvage it through that. And then the third part...
We got sucked into the triangle again.
Yeah, the third part of this timeline goes over our meeting up together, getting back into a personal relationship, getting on the road as an ATM unit.
She asked me out.
In this time I did. In fall 2021 to summer 2022, which is year...
Let's forget the years. They don't know. It was for us, it was year 11.
Yeah, year 11 when we actually, but that, I just messed it up. The part 3 was once he had gone and I was alone with Wiko. And then, here we go, part 4. Part 4 is when we reunited as a unit, ATM. So it is in 4 parts.
Maybe on the next episode we'll have a color grid, a chart that people can follow along with.
Yeah, take a screenshot, put it up on your wall. Yeah, you'll finally be able to
finally I understand what reversal of fortunes. All the lore is just so convoluted.
So, the 4th part, once we came back together, is what we didn't really get into that much last episode. But it's been about 1.5 years, fall 2022, your time until now, that we have been back together as an ATM unit. And it looks completely different as what our professional relationship is now, what our personal relationship is now, and it's improved by leaps and bounds. I think we would both say that. What do you say? What say you?
Personal relationship, definitely better. Professional relationship, better results.
You don't enjoy it still, that's for sure.
It's
but
terrible. But, hey. Enjoyment is the factor. Does it work better? Yeah. Have I learned to enjoy it more?
But, does a man need to enjoy his work, in terms of hard work? Sometimes not, sometimes.
Yeah.
Whatever. So, we talk a lot, or maybe let's just say the vibe with this unit and DLA is a lot about, our personal relationship with each other. Unconsciously and ambiently, we kind of make that.
Or is our personal relationship kind of about a professional relationship? It kind of works both ways.
It works both ways. I'm just saying, as an outsider looking in, you might think a lot of this army is about our personal relationship.
And who says it isn't?
And
it
you know
has
what?
been up to this point.
We've made it.
It's
we
only
have
been 6 years.
We've done that a lot. And the personal, it's very mixed up with the professional, and we
It's
thought,
been a mess.
Yeah, we thought with this series, we just really dive into personal and professional, and maybe get it out of our system, talking about our personal relationship. Perhaps we could get it out of our system and not need to actually make this about our personal relationship as much, if that makes sense. And our cult leaders that we take orders from always encourage immaculate boundaries, and it's something that we've struggled with but have improved on. But back in the beginning, it was way blurrier.
It was a blur fest.
It was a blur fest, and it made things more difficult. So today we'll go over just I think a typical day in part 1 of 4 of this timeline, when we first got together personally in a personal relationship, and when for the first time it was just the two of us on our own, to see what it would be like for us to foster both that and a professional working relationship on the road together as the unit ATM. So you're gonna notice that we're talking a lot about quote unquote kind of negative things about ourselves, but a better way of saying it is just underdeveloped. There were things that we were succeeding at back then and getting better about, but from where we stand now, it would hopefully be that we look back and see all the things that are wrong and the ways we've grown and become better, because this army is kind of fast tracking constant and accelerated growth, so at a faster rate than is normal in the pain matrix. So even going through this stuff might be triggering for both of us in different ways. It still is. I think we're both figuring that out as we do this series, because we haven't really talked about it in a way that doing a long series, talking to a camera, even if there's no audience right now, we haven't
come to a personal consensus. We haven't decided who is the victim and who is the perpetrator. Maybe it has been decided. I don't know.
We're always vying. Can you take your shoe off the furniture? We're always vying for who's gonna get either one. I don't know. I feel I won't go into it.
True perp, true victim.
Excuse me. I'm just rolling my eyes. Yeah, I guess I'm just giving you a little context that we're really brainwashed. You come here and you get a little less brainwashed. It's really triggering. It's really hard. And we were going through and getting out of brainwashing back then that was leaps and bounds ahead of the few months for that time.
Sure.
But where we are now, like that time period, we should be able to look at it from a different place, from a better place, and be like, oh, I can see now that all this shit was fucked.
Also, there was way less orders, way less restrictions. The Daylife Army was much looser of a thing. It was like, you know, it was a little bit. My understanding of the Army since the beginning was it started out pretty Wild West, and it's gotten more and more and more and more clarified.
Yeah, as we figured things out
as things have been figured out. And so this is a point in time where things were still a little bit wildly westy. So we were not under supervision, like direct, supervision. Our reporting systems were not as good, and so we were trying to figure this out. We had never done this before. We didn't really know what was going on,
and we were off on our own, the two of us.
On our own.
So there wasn't direct attention.
And trying the relational dynamics that neither of us had done before.
Yeah. So, I guess, do you want to go into what it was like back then, typically, for you?
Yeah, sure. So this is like a bad day. As a narcissist, I was dissociating in my own way after a lot of crazy stuff had happened, and a lot of fails had happened, along with a major mainstream media cancellation neither of us had processed. I don't know necessarily if that was like a giant fail. Maybe the lack of processing.
That wasn't a fail at all.
You just said like lots of fails.
A lot of fails had happened along with that.
Yeah, we'd lost the car, we'd lost the, things, it was a lot of crazy stuff was going on at that point that were fails. So my job basically was to be a manager to Mary, and also like my main task every day was to go live once a day, which I did for a while. I did like 200, 300 videos of me going live every day. And in those lives, I still hadn't fucking figured out my whole thing and honesty and, saving face. So I was, trying to look cool in those videos. And so along with that, I was managing a Sergeant Major of the Army, Mary, and at that time I was a major, so I was like an officer. I actually had jurisdiction. I was actually her commanding officer, and I was telling her to do things, managing her work, encouraging her to do charity, which is the way that I've always done collecting laundry to submit to this. I still haven't figured out I haven't moved out of that way. I came here and started doing the charity thing, so I encouraged her to do the charity thing so I didn't have to do it anymore. And then, which is my own construct, and
not to say that things were entirely that way, I'm just I want to clarify. You did, and we both did at that time, we still had some soul redemption going on. We still had some people that were like URL or whatever. It's just that was like the operating idea for how to get through each day.
Yeah, it was because of our lack of belief, I guess, and it's still a problem, but things have been, like I said, clarified since then. I was trying to do whatever I could without losing face or actually having to do work. I was trying to do as little work as possible. And at that time, I was still getting daily personal attention from General Wiz and General Koa. I was then, and all of the time between my grueling job of managing her and, doing one live per day, I was basically doing just whatever I wanted to do. I was relaxing. I was, watching Netflix. I was just, sleeping in, just had a lot of free time, and I wasn't using any of that free time to do work or try to build better relationships with people. I was pretty I'm living the good life. I got a cushy job of telling someone else to do the work. And I was a pretty bad house guest. I would have her do most of the she would go and like do the work of like, you know, having the hosts be happy where we were staying and socializing with people.
I like found everywhere that we stayed, and then
Right.
also did all of the social
To
work.
be fair, she's very good at that, and I'm not. The social work, not so much. I'm
No,
actually probably
no,
better
you
at
were
the social
better,
work.
but you brought the autistic white woman out to
I
like
know.
be like the cool. Like,
You're
let
good
me
at
talk.
finding places, and like you're very crafty because you're like a crafty DIY type of.
How I remembered it was basically like all these people's houses that we were staying at for free because I had found them on like Craigslist or Couchsurf or just word of mouth from a person from Craigslist. You stayed in the room we were staying in the entire day and never came out except for like when they were cooking you food
Or
to
when
say
it was
hello.
like hanging out with the guy at the Kung Fu Dojo, because then it was just bro times.
And you were getting things though. Like
There was
he brought you
there was
with-
bad boys around. When there was bad boys around, I was like down to hang.
You're like,
but
"That
when
ain't
we were
me."
staying with like good boys or women, yeah, I would stay in my room.
You're like no.
And yeah, just no growth. Not a lot of growth was happening in that stage, and I wasn't necessarily that happy doing it either. But it was just, you know, I hadn't got my proverbial crap together. And then I would kind of just like bark at my DR. We had kind of set up a little bit of a sub-dom relationship in our personal and professional
It's just
relationship,
messy.
which was like that was kind of like where the personal relationship was, and she would call me sir, and she would do it in like we were doing that in front of onlookers as well who did not understand what we were doing. And we were probably, you know, doing it in a weird way because we were mixing it in with our personal and professional, and also not having real delineated private public things. And yeah, that was just where our relationship was at that time. And I was, you know, giving her, like, yelling at her about things that she was doing, but the way that things were structured, she wasn't really yelling at me about things that I was. And there was plenty of things she could have yelled at me about, but she never did. So it was always like just all the shit flowing down the hill without any of it
The
coming
shit
back
flowing
up.
down and me getting to be like, the shit's flowing down and I'm doing all the work, and like it really fed into the like victim kind of role or whatever that I was in.
And I was happy to take on just like the dominant role, as in not a healed way, because I was like partially just trying to like get back at maybe like the fact that I had a negative relationship with my mother, who would, you know, scream at me all the time. So probably my toxic thing that I used that construct to be like, you know, I wasn't very responsible with it, and a part of it was like a little bit of a, you know, being mean to her or yelling at her because I was like mad at women. So it was pretty toxic.
Yeah, and like the thing is, most importantly, that was also just like we literally wanted actually the opposite, but at that point we didn't know that.
We hadn't had a conversation about it. Our conversations at that point had affirmed that we wanted me to be the dom and her the sub. And it turned out that was not what works.
Imagine
or what
like
either
a
of us actually
narcissist and a
wanted.
codependent enabler already, and then you're like also doing that. That's
bad.
Wacky town. It's bad. And so, like, and I wrote in here that Yona's gonna be in a mood, like talking about those things just then. But we actually already did a run through to get our moods out, which we've been doing with this series.
DM us for the raw, uncut footage.
We taped the first one where we were really triggered, and then we taped the second one, and it's, you know, so far no need to do it more than a second, but
We'll see.
We'll see.
The night is still young.
So like from my perspective, going back to the same time period in the beginning, part 1 of 4. I know we're at part 3 of 12 of the series, and we're at part 1 of 4 of our Reversal of Fortune's timeline. Okay. I'm just remembering like the time of this where I had found us like a Christmas tree farm to stay in that had like a barn that was super like big but had like a loft that was a finished apartment with like a sauna. Like it was crazy. And it was crazy with two crazy white women staying there. Like crazy white women staying there. And this is the Pacific Northwest. And so I was in this dynamic that we were just kind of getting into describing, where I was like thinking that I liked being in this kind of submissive doormat, really. I was making it into a doormat relationship. I was not speaking up when I was being disrespected, even though in the moment I felt the disrespect from him. I felt the things that were toxic, but I was so in denial and like so uncomfortable getting out of that dynamic that I was like, no, this is actually what I want, because it was just like easier to say that than to say what I actually felt, which would have taken conflict using my voice. Back then, this is like only a year into my time here in this army. I still could barely talk. I mean, I did more than I had before, but I could barely like be real, and I could barely stick up for the things that I was feeling inside. So
you come from an extremely toxic, not toxic. You come from an extremely conflict-averse family.
Conflict-averse family.
I come from a extremely conflict-heavy family. Like, everything was worked out through conflict.
Yeah. My mom would never, my entire life, have raised her voice. Instead, she used, like, kind of feeling hurt by her children as a way to get us to do things. And my dad, you know, he died before we really were, for the bulk of the childhood, I can super remember, like, you know, past 10 years old, he wasn't even there. So he might have had a little less, might have brought in a little more, you know, punishment, masculine presence, but like it was gone so early that I just didn't know how to deal with it. So like, yeah, the personal and professional was blurry with us, and it was dominated by me being like not speaking my mind and having really like low standards around what I thought I deserved, what I wanted, and not facing the things I actually wanted because I was so afraid of getting into that, and the like vulnerability, the true vulnerability that would require the vulnerability of like maybe shouting back, maybe saying fuck you, maybe feeling like I had to look kind of more like a perpetrator in my mind. That was way more vulnerable to me than playing the victim. And kind of being the victim, but like letting myself be the victim too, which is actually way less vulnerable for white women. And prefacing all this like as a white woman, it was way less vulnerable, the thing I was doing here, this relationship we were having. And yeah, so from the outside, like these women even came up to me and were like, are you okay? This seems like really unhealthy. Are you like, do you need to be rescued? And I was like, no, I like this. Like, no, I want this. And yeah, like just taking on everything I could while like being like, he doesn't have to do anything. Like I would get the food, I would find the housing, I would be, even if he was managing me like in the morning, like saying go do the thing, I would spend the day getting the wash orders myself. I would talk to the URL soldiers myself. Like,
who URL soldiers were you talking to?
I don't want to say their names, but there were one or two at this point that were like getting involved and starting the thing. And at any point they were given like 2, 1, you know. And then active, I should say. I mean, like, yeah, like doing all of that stuff and like trying to take control of all of those things, and then like enabling his like kind of fucking off for every part of the day that wasn't like that one live you did that didn't take very long, or like, you know, the all of that vast expanse of time that you could have been like figuring out how to get us out of this tailspin, or build your own business life, build things that could have been like, I was enabling that not happening by being like, I'm not gonna say anything, like whatever, I'll do everything, it's fine. Like, it wasn't.
So what?
And
so what's it like now? Like, what's it like to the personal and professional relationship now? Because we just talked about how, messed up it was.
Yeah.
2 years ago.
No, this was 4 years ago.
4 years ago? Right.
Yeah,
4 years
part
ago.
1 was like 4 years ago.
Oh, yeah, it's not as 4 years ago, Everyone was fucked up 4 years ago.
And like I said, it's not like we compared to the 5 years ago, that was us getting better.
Yeah.
Like, we were on our own. We could actually handle being on our own within the cult dynamic, within the army. We were just, getting, like teenagers out of college the first year. It was a little...
So what's it like, personal and professional, to be in such a close, together, intertwined relation?
Well, we had no separation back then. Now, I think that we definitely try and succeed at times.
We don't have any more separation now.
No, I'm saying we have more separation between our personal and professional.
Right.
Like, we have way more structure. We have the work day, and, yes, sometimes it goes later than we want it to, but we have the work day and we have the personal at night, our personal time. Like, the work day has a different vibe. I would say that having it so, like, it's still intertwined because of lots of reasons, but, like, what's it like? Difficult to navigate at times. It's very intimate. Like, I'm just talking about, like, emotionally and, like, time-based, or just, like, I don't know. It's like, I don't know anyone in a normal life who's in such a close proximity for so much time.
Right.
And that has been going on for a long enough time now that, like, we've gotten over the difficulties that I think any couple, let alone two people working together, would hit up against, being in, like, a small place all the time together.
Pre-kids, pre-children.
Yeah.
We haven't even... We're getting through our, like, just man and woman stuff.
Because once you can, like, learn to be in proximity like this and, like, be able to work together both professionally and personally, and this is how things kind of go here with, like, our physical reality reflecting where we're at emotionally, I feel like we will have more space and more time apart once we figure this stuff out all the way. We're, like, getting there, but we're not there yet. What do you think about the personal and the professional being so difficult to delineate and just so kind of by nature what we do?
Well, it's been better. It's definitely getting better, and it's better now than it's been at any other point. But part of it is, like, there's no break from each other or from our life, and that can be a good thing sometimes, in that, we're just doing the thing, and, like, we're spending 24 hours a day on, like, this path we've committed to taking. But there's also, like, I feel like sometimes we get a little tunnel vision and we try to make our careers here too much about each other and limit some of the growth that we could be having in parts of our lives that aren't intimately related to each other. Like, I could be probably exploring way more relationships with men, and maybe would be, and maybe
professional business relationships, or are you talking about
professional
lovers?
Hey, maybe a little bit of both. I'm talking about business relationships, maybe, and you could probably be spending more time with personal relationships with the ladies. So there's downsides in that. I mean, they're not really downsides. They're just like
it's easy to get really involved in your personal relationship.
Just get really involved. So I see things as we work things out, getting wider, and physical space and emotional, spiritual space getting larger to where we have more room for all of the things that we actually want in our lives. But we're getting there. It's a process.
It is a process.
It's a process.
I hate processes generally, because a process is a time where you're out of control. Like you can't control. You can control like starting something, and you can control ending something.
Mm-hmm.
Oof, but that middle part, as a white woman, being kind of that programming being very much about being addicted to control.
As a narcissist, we hate it. What has improved in both realms over the course of this reversal?
Professional and personal.
Yeah.
Well, personally on my end, I can say exactly what is making me angry, or that I want to get better, or that I'm feeling upset about, like right away, and generally get through it and over it a lot quicker.
She also wears the pants in the family now.
Yeah, I do. And that feels actually more where I really am, that I was denying being at. And it feels more like I'm myself and I'm like actualized. And that feels good.
Mm-hmm.
Feels good to manage him rather than be managed by him. And I think back then I would have been terrified and said, I don't want to manage anyone and be in charge of anyone. I can't handle that. And I did in fact say that when the reversal was beginning to happen. And I think that both our personal and professional relationships have improved a lot. I think that they are more honest and real now, and there are parts of that are difficult to get through and we fight about, but it's better than like this ambient fog of like denial and kind of like love sickness and hypnotic avoidance or something that was happening back then, that maybe not a lot of conflict was happening, but it's because like I was, at least can say for myself, was just kind of in la la land about where we're at, and not having a real relationship and real love or real
Also, all of that was happening. We weren't having sex or kissing or doing any of it.
Yeah.
Which is like interesting. That at that time we were like not engaging in any physical intimacy
relationship for a very long time before, we were actually dating. In a.
That happened more in the part 2 stage of things.
So.
Why is this? Well, what helps? Did I answer that too? I feel like. Well, for me, what's improved in both realms is, personal relationships. We're not trying to be someone that we're not. We get through things faster. Even in the last year, a year ago, things were pretty rough.
Yeah.
With us.
Yeah, it was back together and like butting heads and getting, at the very beginning of getting through all this stuff. So we were so mad and so angry and just like really fighting.
Not as much anymore. There's still essential things, but we're getting better at communicating and getting through things faster, and things not being so one-sided. So that's been good. I'm so grateful for that. And so in both realms and professionally, I'm getting more used to just. Sometimes I'm like, I'm fine with it. And a lot of times I'm really not fine with it, but it's fine, because the results are better. So
the results are better.
Yeah.
The stability is improved a lot.
What helps each other? What helps each one go better? Makes each one go worse. Like what
makes our professional relationship work better?
Or
what
worse?
derails it? Same with personal, yeah.
So for personal, I think our relationship gets better when we communicate and don't bring... Yeah, actually, the more that we delineate between professional and personal, the better things are. And when we also don't prioritize personal relationship over the professional relationship to where we like lose track of the professional relationship, or everything just becomes personal.
Yeah.
So structure, boundaries, just being to standard, more to standard.
Listening to orders. For me, I guess this goes into kind of like tips for how to make each of these things go better.
Which is our next section.
Yeah, like it helps me when I feel insobriety coming on, that a fine line between these two. I still express the emotion I'm feeling, the anger, the whatever. A lot of the times right now it's anger. Like, that's the season I'm in. Like, but then after I've expressed it, I don't like continue to get trapped in the hypnotic kind of luge cycle of like feeding him with anger, because he might not consciously, like, no one likes getting yelled at consciously, but unconsciously I've
been programmed to receive that attention.
He wants that attention from women. That's the attention he kind of makes happen. I don't know how to say it in a different way, like, but you know what I'm saying, I think. And then
I grew up with a screamer, y'all.
Yeah, he grew up with a screamer, so he thinks of care and love as screaming. So if he wants that kind of attention, it will just happen to be something that is happening and getting done. That's on your end. I have my own accountability on why I'm, getting angry and why we're doing that whole thing. But for me, I just need to, like, once it's expressed, disengage and think about action items.
Get selfish. Read an Ayn Rand book.
Action items that I can do rather than keep talking or engaging. And what else?
Well, for me, some tips for other bad boys out there is, prayer, separating yourself from the situation by getting some physical distance, taking a walk, just, swallowing attitude, getting a good attitude, keeping a good tude and mood. And
having a sense of humor, that's the one I
keeping your
forgot.
plums. Having a sense of humor for both of us is always helpful.
About, like,
getting better bears, get the good bears, get the good plums.
We're gonna keep that explained for the audience.
You can't just not explain something. You have to, like, get meta and tell them that we're not explaining this.
Yeah.
Well, I think that is our Reversal of Fortunes Part 3. How does it feel to be at the end of this video?
Good. I'm drained now. I'm tired.
Part 4 should be pretty good. I imagine it's going to be a good one. You guys should tune in for the part 4. Tune in for Part 4.
Sometimes he's so relaxed and feels the vibe so much that the vocal...
My mouth is no hard.
The mouth just doesn't even make some words anymore.
Thanks for joining us. We're gonna do more of these. Believe me, anything we didn't cover in this video, we got 9 more.
We got it. Oh yeah, 9.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye. Love you.